Opportunity and Spirit sent us great information. Curiosity is sending us great information, the rovers from Mars. And from that, we're getting a good idea of what the soil is actually going to be like. But until we actually get there and put seeds in the ground, we won't really know what we can grow efficiently there. In all likelihood, there will be crop failures. There will be some things that just won't grow for one reason or another. Perhaps it's the 40% of Earth's gravity. We won't really know. And a failure of crop is something that has to be expected. They'll be sent with a lot of food that will last them a long time. But the sooner they get growing their own food, the longer their own rations will last. And the diversity of their food will increase their own quality of life. After that, they're going to be starting to set up the next habitat. And this is where things get a lot more interesting. Although they're there permanently, what you see here isn't necessarily a permanent settlement. This isn't their permanent home. This is like a construction camp. So imagine it is as that. It's a construction camp. This is where they're going to live while they're creating the next home. The real home, a place where you would spend the rest of your life. The initial quarters will be very confined. And as soon as they can, they're going to start creating larger spaces. Now, how they do that, there's a lot of different potential. We could be using inflatables. We're going to be using as much as we can materials from Mars. Now, whether that's bricks, whether that's concrete, hopefully eventually there will be plastics and glass. But all these different materials are going to require different elements of manufacture. And it's also going to increase the power demand for the settlement. What I've shown here is essentially a 28-meter diameter balloon. The couple different ways that you could make this inflatable is have the inflatable have a bladder where it's actually two walls, and you could inject into those walls concrete. Now, how that concrete's built, I'm not a concrete expert. The guy speaking after me, Brandon, is a concrete expert. If you have any questions, ask him. Everything I know about potentially making concrete on Mars, I've learned from him. So inside this space, we then use more concrete to create the physical structures and the overall structure of the interior. The same way commercial buildings downtown are made from pouring the slabs and pouring the structural columns. Once you have that support, you can move in and out, you can change the tenants, you can change the use of this space. So from this structure, this space itself could eventually evolve. And Mars are not going to have the luxury of taking down something when they're finished with it and putting up a new building. That would be an extreme waste of materials and labor and facilities. Once you have a habitable space, that space is going to be sacred. They're going to have to be built to last. Once you have the concrete in place, you can start to move in. Once you move in, you can start to plant things, and you can start to really utilize the space. The efficient use of space here on Earth means if you have a square floor plate, you want to divide it up so you can get as many desks or rooms or whatever into that space. The efficient use of space on Mars is going to have to focus on a quality of life aspect. If we were to quote unquote efficiently use this space, the entire thing would be first floor, second floor, third floor boxed into essentially 6x8 cells. Here on Earth, in America, the average prison cell is 6 feet by 8 feet. So we know people could live long term in 6 feet by 8 feet, but that has nothing to do with quality of life. And ultimately, if you're moving anywhere for the duration, if you're moving to a retirement home, you're not looking at a 6 by 8 foot place. If you're looking to branch out, no one dreams of a 6 by 8 foot place. The quality of life and the expansion of the space is paramount for just personal well-being. Now, being on Mars, because of the conditions outside, you're going to be forced to be living inside a lot. And so you're always going to have a roof over your head. One thing that's currently being generated is something that's equivalent to, let's say, a spray-on LCD panel, where you literally spray all over a wall an LCD panel. Then you plug it into one part, and wherever that LCD paint is touching, it becomes a screen. So we could paint the entire ceiling of this and link it to cameras outside that show a real-time feed of what the sky looks like. So you can look up, while you're inside, you can look up to the sky. Now, everything on Mars is going to be very orange, and it's going to be very warm. Everything you look, it's going to be a very monochromatic palette. Personally, humans have evolved with this blue sky over top of us, and we think blue sky is very calming, and I certainly think it's calming. I think what I've shown here is a slight blue tinge to the camera feed. I think for the person's well-being, I think we're probably going to tinge the sky a little bit when we give the feed. It'll make them feel a little more like Earth. It'll make them feel a little cooler. Now here we have a larger space. In the middle, the clearance is going to be almost 25 meters. So you can grow all kinds of things in here. You could start to grow citrus fruits, which wouldn't necessarily be a high volume, productive type fruit. You're not going to get a lot from it, but the oranges you'll get, or the lemons or limes, will add to the quality of life. Being able to pick a fresh fruit every couple of months will do an immense amount to the person's psychological well-being. In all likelihood, this space will be used to grow bamboo or something like that. Bamboo is going to be an incredibly versatile plant to be used. The fibers can be used for all kinds of different building operations. It can also be used for food. Also, hemp could be a very versatile plant to be used. Now inside, we're going to have these large video panels. These panels are going to be showing clear current feeds from the exterior. These will be the big windows that people will be missing. You want to be able to see what's happening out there. These will be really large video panels. The panels will also be showing live feeds from back on Earth, whether it be your own family members or your Skype chat, or even just news headlines. I also see the development of very small communal spaces, things like almost a coffee shop. This is a place where people can sit around and have a drink. When the community gets big enough where the food production is not as critical, the food quality will become very important. And where initially you'll have a lot of people dedicated completely to food production, eventually you'll have a person who's a dedicated chef using that product to make people's life better. You work really hard, you should be able to eat well. And in these types of conditions, it'll be the little things that really add to a person's quality of life. You have a great breakfast, great lunch, great dinner, it all will change morale, and then it'll affect people for the better. Growing fresh herbs constantly so that you have a flavorful, nutritious meal to be eating, as opposed to a bland, another soy pudding again. The entire downstairs in this particular setup is completely growing operations. The amount of growing that you can feed here, I mean, you could quite easily feed 15 people with the current layout that I have in this particular segment. And in the space in the middle, beneath the plants, it's an aquaponic operation. So there are fish being grown, whether it be a tilapia, perch, or trout. And the effluents from the trout or the fish will then become the fertilizer for the plants. And you can start to create a closed loop agricultural system where the plants can feed the fish, and the fish will fertilize the plants, and the water from the fish tank will then be used also in the plants as fertilizer. The plants will then clean the water, and you can ship it back to the fish themselves. And this is me in the Mars habitat. I'm probably not going to get to see Mars, so if there's going to be any pictures of me on Mars, I'm going to have to do it myself. So that's all I have for today. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
Do you have any basic requirements for your people, for your astronomers?
Yeah, the requirements are, if you go to mars-1.com, you can apply right now. In the last 3 weeks, we've had over 78,000 people apply since we announced the application process. But all the requirements for the application are there. So mars-1.com will answer any of those questions. You have to upload a video of yourself talking about yourself, as well as all the relevant information. We'll be sending a lot of medicine. You'll be able to get interviewed by doctors. So we'll have doctors on Earth that'll work with the people. In all likelihood, the initial 4 people that go, at least one of them will be a doctor. And so you'll have a doctor on base. Now then the question is, well, what if it's a doctor that gets injured? Everyone would be at the very minimum trained in emergency response and life support. So they'll all be trained medical technicians, at the very least EMTs. So like the training that an ambulance driver would get. So everyone could apply at the very minimum good basic first aid, and they'll probably have certain operations taken before they leave. Some people, you know, appendix might be taken out, that sort of thing, just to prevent the opportunity for further problems. And no one with